You could create like an entire campaign where the Illithids figure out how overpowered these things are. Like they didn't realize it for centuries, and then they're like, "Wait a second!" They're just like reading the book, and they're like, "That can't be right." And then the entire realm is imperiled by these things.
Oh, welcome to Monsters Multiclass. I'm Kevin Odie.
I'm Jared Bornagle.
And I'm Will Meldon.
And on this episode, we dive into the spooky, slimy, brain-eating monsters, the Mind Flayers. Old as D&D itself. This one's actually going to be handled by Will as a special treat originally, because he likes Mind Flayers, and he's surprisingly good at talking when we make him do it. Will?
Mind Flayers, also known as Illithids. They are the alien, Lovecraftian, brain-eating squid monsters that every D&D player has learned to hate. Many parties have experienced them when their brains are quite literally consumed mid-combat. Generally hard to recover from, it leaves a bit of an impression. They are an ancient society from beyond any knowledgeable material realm that were toppled when their Gith slaves revolted. No one really knows what happened, but their decadence is often blamed for what happened. They are hunted throughout the galaxy by the Gith and create these colonies of slaves and thralls where they try and rebuild their former glory. Not just slavers in body, slavers in mind. They are powerful psionics that literally dominate those that they come in contact with. And their special, unique form of reproduction is putting a little fish monster in your eye, and then it eats your brain, and then you're the squid monster. They are devoted to a gigantic brain that controls them as a hive mind network. Their methods are mysterious, but they are unequivocally evil. Let's talk about the Mind Flayers.
Woo. Why don't you do every monster? Jared and I just bumble through the lore. Feels like you spend a half a year writing that.
I just read this morning.
Yes, so a lot of lore to unpack for the Mind Flayer. Volo's Guide to Monsters has some really detailed breakdowns that are awesome. We're not going to sit here and just read through them, but starting with the Mind Flayer itself, let's take a look at that stat block. And I'm sure throughout these conversations, we'll talk about ways to use them, as we normally do.
Yes.
So, starting off, the Mind Flayer is a challenge rating 7 creature, deceivingly low, I might say, with an armor class of 15, HP of 71. The stats are, I guess, kind of what you'd expect from a psionic squid monster. Strength of 11, dex of 12, 12 con, 19 intelligence, 17 wisdom, and 17 charisma, with saving throws in intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Has a whole bunch of skills: arcana, deception, insight, perception, persuasion, and stealth, I guess.
That one always feels weird to me.
Okay, but it's in there. They have dark vision out to 120 feet, and they speak deep speech, undercommon, and telepathy, which I guess you don't speak telepathy, but it's a language that it has. Where else are you going to put that, right? So it does have magic resistance, so advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects, which from a bit of digging I did is believed to be because of the mucus that coats its body. It gives it magical resistance. I like that bit of lore, so gotta throw that in. And then they have some innate spellcasting, so psionic spellcasting, and it's going to be DC 15 spell save, but it has at will, detect thoughts, and levitate. And then once per day, it can cast dominate monster and plane shift on itself only. So great escape ability. Just to, I guess, talk about those two spells, because those will be pretty important. Dominate monster is an 8th level spell.
Yes.
Not something you normally see on a challenge rating 7 creature.
Nope, but it makes perfect sense why they have it.
Yes.
But yes, the whole challenge rating 7 deceptively low that's one of the big reasons.
Yeah.
That's just a scary thing to have. I mean, they do get to remake the save every time to take damage, right?
Correct. Which means
that's it.
If you were to, say, dominate monster on your party member, you can or if they dominate a monster on one of your party members, they're able to control your party member, and the only way to break it is to beat the crap out of your party member. So, kinda win-win situation for them.
Right.
And that's kind of the reputation as a barbarian slayer is earned there, because when your raging barbarian is charmed, when he blatantly fails this save, he's going to tear through your party like tissue paper because he's a dummy.
Now, that said, the Dominate Monster spell does still target Wisdom, right? Like, it doesn't just change all of theirs to Intelligence. It'd be really nice, though. But it's a Barbarian Slayer. I learned that lesson, I think the one time I threw Mind Flayers at you guys in our Barbarian-specific story arc where I almost murdered him. Whoops.
Yes, he spent most of that combat incapacitated.
I learned a valuable lesson that day. When you're going to give a player their special moment, make them really strong and good at the thing, not their direct counter.
Right.
Lesson learned.
Your special moment is having your brain eaten. End of arc.
He was the barbarian. It wouldn't have made a difference. But dumb barbarian joke. Check. All right.
For actions, it can use some tentacles. +7 to hit, reach of 5 feet, targets 1 creature, and does 2d10 plus 4 psychic damage. If the target is medium or smaller, it is grappled with an escape DC of 15. And it must succeed on a DC 15 intelligence saving throw or be stunned until the grapple ends. So that's where the real barbarian killer comes in.
Yes, the intelligence saves. Yeah, everything else this thing has is, intelligence saves.
Yep.
Which is rough. Basically, if you're a wizard or now an artificer, it's probably going to be a really bad save for you.
Yeah.
Do warlocks get proficiency in it? I know they're not going to have high intelligence, but...
They do. They get intelligence and charisma.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Which is like, it's really weird. They get the ones that are like, you never want to fail, but they barely ever come up.
Yeah. But either way, most likely most characters' intelligence saving throw is going to be bad.
Right. Next.
Oh, I know. They get wisdom and charisma.
Oh, sorry. That does come up a lot.
Yeah.
So,
anyways, doesn't matter.
Extract Brain is their next action, and they can only do one of these per action. They don't get multi-attack or anything. So this is +7 to hit, and the target is one incapacitated humanoid grappled by the Mind Flayer. So the target takes 10d10 piercing damage, coming out to an average of 55. If this damage reduces the target to 0 HP, the Mind Flayer kills the target by extracting and devouring its brain.
Yep.
Well, I'm sure you're wondering... You've already figured out how it gets grappled. That happens by the tentacle attack. But how are we just going to incapacitate it so easily? And that is actually a good question. How are we going to incapacitate it so easily?
Stunned.
Does stunned add the incapacitated? It does. Yep. Look at that, everyone. Because Mind Blast is the Mind Flayer magically emits psychic energy in a 60-foot cone. So like everything, I guess. Each creature in that area must succeed a DC 15 intelligence saving throw or take 48 plus 4 psychic damage and is stunned for a minute. And they can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of their turns. So if we're kind of working a little backwards here, turn 1, you Mind Blast, you stun just about everybody, you stroll on up, you grapple them, and you extract their brain.
Yep, that's 3 turns. You could even skip the Mind Blast. You could just do tentacles and then extract brain.
Oh, that's right. That does stun as well.
Yes.
Oh, boy. The Mind Blast is still, it's good form just to shut down everybody else.
Yes, it is. The only challenge rating 7, 10d10 is enough to one-shots things.
Yes.
You got to be careful. Like if you're doing normal challenge rating and it's like, oh, my party 4 is going to fight one single Mind Flayer. Let's see how it goes. You'll probably be level 4 or 5, and it would be a reasonable fight based on it being challenge rating 7. But yeah, that extract brain is more than enough to one-shot most characters that low.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I find the design of the Mind Flayer, just from like a mechanical standpoint, to be really bad because of that reason. On the flip side, it can also be killed in just about one turn. Because with an AC of 15 and 71 HP, a fighter, on average, is doing about 20-something damage per turn at this level. And if we're talking about 4 party members, if not more, it could very easily not even get a turn before it's dead.
Right. The Mind Flayer is very much the type of enemy where if you are fighting it by itself, somebody screwed up. Maybe it was an out of game screw up and the DM just didn't really understand best how to use it, or it's in game and the Mind Flayer screwed up, or your party outsmarted it, or whatever. But seeing as how all of their lore is around having thralls and stuff, you should generally have more minions with the Mind Flayer,
or potentially more Mind Flayers.
Yes, also a bunch of Mind Flayers.
Which is really scary, but totally an option. And seeing as they hang out in clusters within a 5-mile radius would make perfect sense for there to be multiple.
Yeah, I mean, they have whole colonies. You could run into a hive of them.
That would be terrifying.
Yes. Cool encounter building, though. Bunch of Mind Flayers, a bunch of their thralls, and you could really justify whatever you want in there.
Yeah, there was some... just reading up on some past lore, it was like, halflings and gnomes and dwarves, like, they can't be Mind Flayers because they're too short. And I didn't, really get that, but I guess that was a thing at some point. Doesn't talk about it in Volos at all.
Yeah. But if you, just search and look at all, aberration monsters, there's, halfling, xenomorph, or not xenomorph, whatever the kind of the half
Animorphs.
transformed state is.
I got you.
Yes,
yeah,
animorphs, yes.
There's that's new from Tasha's, isn't it?
Is it?
Let me pull it up.
Yeah, it's an accidentally transformed gnome.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we can kind of cut this.
Well, for what it's worth, what I was mentioning...
Ceramorph, that's it. It's Icewind Dale.
Oh,
that's what it is.
I don't have that, so I can't look up the details. But yeah,
I'm sure it has Mind Flayers in it somewhere. So this is one that I actually do see very just to hammer home that point of don't let your players fight this at low levels. There is one at the beginning of the Waterdeep Dragon Heist adventure. So I guess very mild spoiler. It's something you get to in the first session usually, but. In that, you have the opportunity to, I won't say fight a Mind Flayer. It specifically says in the books that you're just supposed to run away. But I always see stories from DMs running that where they're like, my players killed the Mind Flayer. They were all level 1 and I don't know what happened. And I don't know how that happens, or on the flip side, they'll say that the party attacked the Mind Flayer and the Mind Flayer wiped them because... Of course it's going to. They're level 1.
Right.
But yeah, I guess just word of warning if you're running that. Don't let them interact with it beyond seeing the Mind Flayer. Don't be dumb.
That's an interesting take on the challenge, though. It's that's kind of the complexity of running this is you'll see two things happen. My players one-shot the Mind Flayer. The Mind Flayer one-shot my players. And that's going to continue up until past their challenge rating level.
Sure. You're right. Until you're level 14 and you can take that potential 55 damage.
Yeah, and then in terms of how it kills, where if it gets that suction brain thing, extract brain off.
Brain vacuum, brain hoover.
Yeah, most resurrection does not handle that. Revivify and raise dead will fail. So you could cast a 9th level true resurrect, use a wish spell to restore the brain and then resurrect them, or use reincarnate. It's pretty extreme. It's a pretty, especially at the levels you're going to be dealing with these, a pretty just total, just dead. There's nothing you can do. Where unless you're in a high magic setting, it's most likely it's not going to fly where you can drag them to the nearest temple and there's a cleric there who could cast a 9th level true resurrect.
Yeah, and I'll go so far as to say that I think Mind Flayers only fit in a high level magic setting, even just from their origin itself, where they are planar travelers and basically have spaceships, as Will mentioned, they're aliens. Anything other than a high magic setting is going to feel very weird, and it's going to be very hard to recover from some of the things that they can do.
Yeah, feels like a very old school design style, which makes sense because they're one of the original monsters.
Right.
Before we started talking, I did look up where did they first appear, and it was before D&D was even a published thing. It was in like a newsletter for like a tabletop book. Yeah, like according to the Illithid Wikipedia.
I wonder if it was just from the creation of the Forgotten Realms.
Yeah, Mind Flayers first appeared in the official newsletter of TSR Games, the Strategic Review #1, spring 1975. I'm not 100% sure what all it is, but it does not sound like it was like a monster manual where it came out.
Sure, no, but that would be part of D&D, because...
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, yeah, like original D&D.
It's not like a Beholder where you have that in the original monster manual in its goofy forms. It was like an add-on monster that obviously took off.
Right. And older Dungeons & Dragons has that reputation of being really deadly. I kind of a lot of really unfair stuff where if the dice goes just a bad way, you're dead and that's it. And, don't get too attached to your character. That's the way it goes. Try and avoid combat as much as you possibly can. And that is obviously no longer the ruling design philosophy of Dungeons & Dragons, but you still see seeds of it. And I think Mind Flayer is one of those. It's just such an old school iconic monster. They just sort of kept that. And then even more so in the Intellect Devourers, which we'll get to next year, but directly related to the Mind Flayers.
Yeah. Yeah, so I know that I'm going to be in the new school category when I say it, but like I don't really have much motivation to use Mind Flayers. I really don't. Unless there's like a full story arc around it and players are super prepared for it. I by no means want to surprise players with a Mind Flayer and just say like, oh, here you go, and then just TPK them. Not my style.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that one.
But we've got plenty more to go. So
You disintegrated me, Kevin.
But we were prepared for that disintegration. Yes. Not that we did anything.
You knew
because
I was
disintegrated forever.
We were prepared for anyone else to get disintegrated. We weren't prepared for the cleric to get disintegrated. But regardless, we knew we were going to fight a beholder.
Yeah. And also, the beholders do have that same sort of thing pulled through of that kind of old school mentalities. There's some really deadly stuff, some just unfair stuff with them. And that was a pre-written adventure, and there was no way to be able to pull the beholder out. And plus, I just wanted to do a beholder fight. It was cool.
And now we never have to do it again. That's unless I have a good reason to use a beholder. We'll see what happens.
All right. The other stat block in the monster manual related to Mind Flayers is the Intellect Devourer. They're kind of like their pets. Brain dog is how a lot of people like to refer to them because they're brains with like these.
I literally can't remember Intellect Devourer. I only remember Brain Dog, and luckily, every time I forget, I can just Google Brain Dog D&D, and Intellect Devourers come right up.
Yeah, Intellect Devourers, they're brains from Mind Flayer victims that are consumed, and they undergo a dark ritual and sprout limbs and a bit of sentience and become Intellect Devourers. They're used for scouting and warnings and helping out in fights. These are challenge rating 2, and if you thought the challenge rating 7 was deceptively low, just you wait. Armor class 12, 21 hit points, really low strength of 6. Its highest stat is Dex at 14. It's only intelligence at 12. So nothing crazy there.
Speed of 40.
Perception and stealth.
I just feel like that should be worth mentioning. Speed of 40.
I didn't get to that yet, but I did skip it. You're right. Thank you. It has damage resistances to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks, and it can't be blinded because that is blind sight out 60 feet. What level 2? Challenge rating 2. What level character has
resistance to all non-magical damage types?
Yeah.
Well, not all. Whatever. Physical damage.
Right. So it has detect sentience. The Intellect Devourer can sense the presence and location of any creature within 300 feet that has an intelligence of 3 or higher. Then there's spells like Mind Blink that can hide things. So not much hiding from this. Then action. So it has multi-attack. The Intellect Devourer makes one attack with its claws and uses Devour Intellect. Claws is really basic.
Par for the course.
4 to hit.
Par for the course for a CR2.
Reach 5 feet, 2d4 plus 2 slashing damage. Nothing crazy. Devour Intellect. So it can do this every turn. It can attack with its claws and Devour Intellect because, it would be too
weak
simple.
with just Devour Intellect. Too weak.
Yeah. The Intellect Devourer targets one creature it can see within 10 feet of it that has a brain. The target must succeed on a DC 12 intelligence saving throw against the magic or take 2d10 psychic damage. Also, on a failure, roll 3d6. If the total equal or exceeds the target's intelligence score, the score is reduced to 0. The target is stunned until it regains at least 1 point of intelligence. So 3d6 is... it's really likely you're going to have plenty of party members with an intelligence of 8.
That's an average of 10.5, 3d6.
Yeah. So very, very likely this will happen. And if there is no written thing about restoring the intelligence within this, it doesn't happen after a long rest. They don't get to make a save. Your parties, you only do have to find a spell, such as I think Greater Restoration will do it. I don't even think, does Greater Restoration actually have that written in there? Or is that just kind of an assumption that it will restore?
I think it does.
I think it restores
it
any
does.
lost stats. I think that is
Any reduction to one of the target's ability scores.
1.
Got it. Okay. So 5th level spell.
That cost 100 diamond dust too.
Yeah. And this is challenge rating 2. There's more. This gets worse. But just that,
we're just getting started.
It's like, what do you do about that? Challenge rating 2, people will see this and think, oh, I'll throw this after a first level party. And then that's it. That's the end of it. That's the end of that character.
You definitely set a tone.
Shouldn't have dumped int.
Yeah. If the only time if the agreement was this is going to be a very deadly campaign against Mind Flayers, then you kill somebody's really low intelligence character, like first encounter, you're setting a tone. Only smarties allowed. No dummies. Get out of here.
Right.
But, even with an 18 intelligence wizard, the dice are going to go against you at some point. If this is like something you're fighting often.
They'd have to roll all 6s, but yeah.
At some point is what I'm saying. Like if you were fighting like how...
If there's a lot of these.
Right.
Yeah, and it could just do it, yeah. I guess one thing that's nice, the saving throw, DC 12 intelligence saving throw. Otherwise, none of this happens.
Good point. So you would need to fail.
That is lower.
And roll 6 or 3 6s, whatever.
Yeah.
So unlikely to happen to a wizard.
Yeah,
You're right.
and one more thing I would say to maybe, it's not explicitly said in here, but part of the Mind Flayer lore is they are attracted to intelligent minds. That's what they prefer. That's what they're drawn to. That's tastier for them, basically. And so maybe you play it where the Intellect Devourer has no interest in your 8 int fighter and barbarian and is obsessed with your wizard who is much more fortified to protect from this.
Well, if they're low level, you're still probably going to knock them down with the claws
16.
and the psychic damage.
Yeah.
Which brings us to Body Thief.
Yes, Body Thief. So this is not part of multi-attack at least, but the Intellect Devourer initiates an intelligence contest with an incapacitated humanoid, such as one that is stunned from its Devourer Intellect or one that has fallen unconscious. Within 5 feet of it, that isn't protection from evil and good. If it wins the contest, so this is just in opposing intelligence checks, by the way. That's what it means by that. You don't see this too much outside of like grapples, which is obviously athletics, or agility, whatever. It doesn't matter. The Intellect Devourer magically consumes the target's brain, teleports into the target's skull, and takes control of the target's body. So that's one check. If something's incapacitated, it initiates one intelligence contested check with it. And then that's what happens. Well, inside a creature, the Intellect Devourer has total cover against attacks and other effects originating outside its host that isn't protected from protection from evil and good. The Intellect Devourer retains its intelligence, wisdom, and charisma scores, as well as its understanding of deep speech, its telepathy, and its traits. It otherwise adopts the target's statistics and knows everything the creature knew, including spells and languages. If the host body dies, the Intellect Devourer must leave it. A protection from evil and good drives it out. The Intellect Devourer is also forced out if the target regains its devoured brains by means of a wish. 9th level spell, like top casting in the realm. By spending 5 feet of its movement, it can voluntarily leave the body, teleporting out of it. Then the body dies, unless its brain is restored within 1 round.
which can only be done by wish.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you have to restore the brain. It's a wish. Or they die, and then you do a 9th level. So then you're in the same position with the Mind Flayer. 9th level True Resurrect, or you reincarnate them.
So this could wipe out a level 20 character in, I guess, 2 turns pretty easily.
Yep. Yeah, or if there's more than one, because these things kind of feel like they would travel in packs. They kind of have that tendency to them. Yeah, 1 turn. 1 turn, one of them devours intellect, the other one body thieves.
That's it.
There you go.
Nope.
By fighter, by cleric, by barbarian, because like most of those classes dump intelligence.
You could create like an entire campaign where the Ulithids figure out how overpowered these things are. Like they didn't realize it for centuries, and then they're like, "Wait a second!" They're like reading the book, and they're like, "That can't be right." And then the entire realm is imperiled by these things.
That would be good for the anti-Swole Coast campaign where it's just wizards. And I don't.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. It's not as exciting as the Swole Coast, but still. Only level 20 wizards allowed.
We got artificers now, so we could flesh that out in the Nerd Coast.
The Nerd Coast. Hey, there you go.
There you go. Wizards and
artificers,
artificers, nothing
coast
else.
from Intellect Devourer.
If we do Wizards of the Coast, Kevin, we're gonna get sued.
Yeah.
All right.
I didn't say that, but yeah. This is another one of those old school designs that I think just pulled through the ages. Yeah, it's something I would never want to throw at a party. I did once. Really, the first time I DM'd, I found this like pre-written module, and the module was really good, but they had Intellect Devourers in it, and I completely fudged it. Like 3 of you guys would have died if I just played it straight. I think I gave it it took like 4 rounds and 4 past checks to do it, or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's always funny. You're just like, oh my god, I screwed up so bad.
Yes.
I'm not going to let that fly. Now, how could we change this to be a actually potentially challenge rating 2 monster? I mean, maybe that gets moved around. Is failing a save 3 times? Is that make sense? Maybe instead of if you roll 3d6 and it's more than your intelligence, it drops to 0. Maybe like a set scale that it goes down by 2 every time you fail.
Right. Or it doesn't devour your brain.
No,
it can like magically merge with it, and then if it's driven out from one of these various means, that person is fine. Basically, it's like a possession almost.
Sure.
Like a ghost. Yeah, or then just adding a way written into the stat block of how the intelligence comes back up if it's devoured. You're not having to rely on greater restoration. They can re-roll a save, and then after the pass it's restored, or after short rest it's restored. That would still be annoying because it would just take them out of the fight, but at least it's just a fight. It's not permanent.
Yeah, unless it dropped to 0. But even then, it would still be like, okay, now we need to find shelter for a rest to get this person back to good.
Right, yeah.
It would still be strong. I still wouldn't call it a challenge rating 2, because anything that has the ability to just wipe you out entirely should probably be a little higher.
Right.
But regardless, it would be a reasonable fight.
Right. And I just realized something with the body thief. If you're doing something where they devoured intellect, it's an intelligence contest. Like, so they only have +1 to that, so it's not crazy. But if their intelligence is 0, they have what, -5?
Yeah.
On that contest?
Yeah.
So
you done.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you don't really fight these, and these are more plot devices.
That's
and
also
a Mind Flayer campaign, and you have interactive NPCs taken over by Intellect Devourers who are trying to undermine you.
Right.
And eventually you drive it out, and then this terrible clawed brain starts hopping around, and you kill it real quick, because maybe it could only do it once per long rest, and it just did it to possess that guy, and you drove it out and then killed it before it had a chance to be able to do another body thief. You know?
Right. Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of ways to change it around. I just hope that people hear this and do that and don't fall into the same traps that, or I guess mistakes that you I won't say you, Kevin, but I'm sure many people have fallen into, which is seeing that challenge rating too. And I hate stuff like this because I am an advocate for the challenge rating system. I feel like it does work if you know what to do with it. But then you get stuff like this and it's like, not that one. No, that sucks.
Right.
That does totally ruins my argument that challenge rating is okay.
Right. Yeah, there's some things that just exist outside of it. This is one of them.
Right.
It needs to be challenge rating just a line like it's...
Oh, it's challenge rating nothing. Great. I think I'll throw 6 at my party.
Right.
And that's the issue. Challenge rating 2 is only a little bit problematic on this one. If you add another Intellect Devourer, it's now like a boss fight.
Right.
It is going to leave the party scarred for eternity.
Right.
That's not how it's supposed to scale, but that's how it does for this particular monster.
Right. Well,
yes.
It's the fact that challenge rating relies on health and damage per round, when in reality, this thing is more of ability to drop you to 0 and kill you per round. And that is extremely high, whereas its damage per round by the books is 7. That's not true. It's, I guess, 18 because it's 7 plus the 11 from the psychic damage.
Right.
And it has, again, 12 AC and 21 HP. That's what's factored in to challenge rating. And that's it.
Right.
So, yeah, I guess challenge rating sucks. Today. All right. Next.
All right. I think, moving on. Elder Brains. Now we're switching over to Volos. Those are the two kind of main things regarding Mind Flayers in the Monster Manual.
So, Elder Brains are we'll say the core of the Ulithid society. They act as a central node to communicate ideas and also almost house the singular mind of the Ulithids. And it's not likely that your group is going to fight one. Realistically, they are geared towards self-preservation first and foremost, and they are going to run. But in the instance that your party is able to track one down and kill it, we've got a stat block.
How is it going to run, Jared?
It has a movement speed.
A 5.
And if it
a
dashes...
swim speed of 10.
So, as it states in the lore, it would be like the Ulithids basically picking it up and moving the jar. So...
Guys!
Yes?
Look at the art!
It's got tentacles.
No. The art in Volos.
Yeah?
It's got these enslaved... you remember the guy who's pretending to be an elf?
Quaggoth. Enslaved Quaggoths.
It's got enslaved Quaggoths pulling
Direct.
its gigantic tank throne.
Yeah.
Sure. So, yeah, it has ways that it will escape. It also has plane shift.
That's true.
That it also has.
So, I mean, it's not going to stick around. I legitimately do not see a reason your party should ever be able to kill this thing unless you somehow burst in and then made like an anti-magic zone on it so that it couldn't escape, and then swiftly dispatched any of its guards, its Quaggoth guards or whatever, and fought it from there.
Yeah, I would see it more... You would kind of set it up to ultimately be a hollow victory. So you fight your way in through the Mind Flayer colony, you kill a bunch of them, you get to the Elder Brain, this thing being pretty powerful, and we get to the stat block, and as arrogant as it is, thinking, all right, let me take care of these, and it engages in a fight, and it gets down to quarter health, and it's like, crap. All right, this is annoying. I'm going to have to abandon everything we worked to set up here, but poof, they're gone. And so, like, it's the party kind of won because they cleared the Mind Flayers out of the area they intended to clear them out of, but they're not really gone.
Right.
They just moved elsewhere. In the end, they're the winners, which is very kind of on a tone, on brand for the Mind Flayers, I think.
That's a great point. I could see, at the very least, it mentions they're arrogant, they're egotistical, which you kind of have to be if you are managing the intelligence of hundreds, if not thousands, of intelligent beings. I'm sure a certain bit of hubris gets into you.
Right.
So I could see it engaging in a fight. One question that I had is, when it plane shifts, where does it go? Because the whole thing is that they're on the material plane in the Underdark, because that's like the only place that they can basically be that has sentient life and like allows them to carry out their plans. In no certain terms, it almost feels like they're banished here, but that's like not the right way of putting it. There's nothing literally holding them. But I mean, like when they plane shift, it's not like they have an Ulithid homeworld that they're going to go to on a different plane.
Yeah, I see like the astral plane.
Okay.
That's kind of, I think, their original home.
Sure.
Things like that. They just somewhere else. It's like in the lore when it says like the great race of, it doesn't say the material plane. It says they were once the great race of the inner planes.
Right.
Which is a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I don't understand Forgotten Realms lore enough to really get what that means.
Yeah, I don't quite remember. It's all at the back.
There's like 7 circles.
Right.
You look at them in this kind of
there's a really nice
chart
chart at the back of the player handbook. Appendices. Planes of existence. The material plane. Where is it? Let's see here. Let's see what we got. No, this doesn't help at all. It doesn't use the words inner or outer.
Yes, it does.
And where's the inner start? I see lower.
Inner starts past the elemental chaos.
Oh, there it is. In inner plane. So we got elemental chaos. So that planes of air, water, earth, and fire, inner planes. Then you got the ethereal plane, the Feywild, the Shadowfell, and the material plane.
Okay.
So pick any of those. Those are like the inner planes.
Okay. I just like to imagine them teleporting into the Feywild. It's just a giant brain jar. It's just like,
yeah.
Hey guys, don't kill me.
Or it's more like they disappear to the elemental plane of Earth for a little bit, and then they hang out for a day, and then they poof back somewhere else on the material plane.
Sure. Or if you want to be a real jerk of a DM, to the exact same spot. So
anyways,
to talk about the actual stat block, it is a challenge rating 14, armor class of 10, which I am assuming is because it's a squishy brain. I don't know what
it's a giant squishy brain. Yes.
Not very
large squishy brain.
Yes, you're right. It's a large aberration. Has hit points of 210, speed of 5, and a swim speed of 10. So don't you catch this thing in water. It is speedy. Strength of 15, dex of 10, constitution of 20, intelligence of 21, wisdom 19, charisma 24. It does seem a little weird to me that its intelligence is so low.
I mean, that's higher than any mortal
but its
individual.
Charisma's 24. Like, its whole thing is that it is a network of information between hyper-intelligent beings that specialize in different fields.
Exerting its will and force of personality on those around it, which is what charisma is about.
Well, I guess there's something to really get from that, isn't there? Like a lesson to be learned that cult leaders aren't actually as smart as they are charismatic.
Yeah, well, this thing is also really smart, though, but yeah, it's both.
Also hyper-intelligent, but it's just more charismatic. Has saving throws in intelligence, wisdom, and charisma at 10, 9, and 12, respectively. Skills in arcana, deception, insight, intimidation, persuasion, and no stealth this time. Just sneaking up against walls.
Right.
Squishy brain. It understands common, deep speech, and undercommon, but it can't speak itself, and it has telepathy out to 5 miles. I believe telepathy just gets around language barriers, though, right?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Yeah.
It seems kind of dumb to me that somebody would be able to come up to this thing and speak a language and have it just be like, you lost me. Sorry. Can we speak through brain talk? Because I don't get that language. I don't even have ears, but I guess I can hear. Whatever. Creature Sense is its first passive ability. The Elder Brain is aware of the presence of creatures within 5 miles of it that have an int score of 4 or higher. It knows the distance and direction to each creature, as well as each one's intelligence score, but can't sense anything else about it. Creature protected by Mind Blank or a non-detection spell or similar magic cannot be perceived in this manner. So to start off, it knows where everything that has some semblance of intelligence is.
Mm-hmm.
Then it has some innate spellcasting, which is the exact same as the normal Mind Flayer. It has Detect Thoughts, Levitate, Dominate Monster, and Plane Shift, but its DC is 18 instead of 15.
Yep, which makes that Dominate Monster a lot scarier.
Definitely.
I mean, 50, it was already scary, but 18 DC is really rough.
Right. Then it has 3 legendary resistances. It has magic resistance, so advantage on saving throws and other magical effects. And then it is a telepathic hub, so it can use its telepathy to initiate and maintain telepathic conversations with up to 10 creatures at a time. The Elder Brain can let those creatures telepathically hear each other while connected in this way. Take that, aberrant mind. This is how you get good telepathy. So the only time I see this coming up is if your party aligns with Mind Flayers, which would be a really cool campaign.
Yes. Evil campaign.
Yes, evil. Very evil.
It's actually not that far out. They're very, very bad, but there are times where there are bigger threats to the realm. It didn't happen in Out of the Abyss, for instance, but it could have.
Yeah,
sure.
That would have been a cool choice to bring Mind Flayers into Out of the Abyss.
Yeah. Would have made a lot of sense. It's the Underdark. That's where they hang out.
All that being said, would the Mind Flayers contact the party and say, hey, we want to work with you and we'll set our differences aside for this big threat? Or would they just look to subjugate them, dominate their will, and make them a thrall?
Well,
I think it would be the latter.
Probably, but it's a story. So,
and in the event that they fail, you beat the shit out of their Mind Flayers because they have no armor and very little health. They're like, whoa. All right. We'll help you navigate the Underdark because we're made out of brains and can talk telepathy.
Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it.
Yeah, I'll entertain it.
I don't know how you would do it, but it would have to be like a tenuous alliance of okay, well, you know where we're at and you know a little bit more than we'd like you to. But if we just subjugate you, then we still have this demon problem, and we don't want to go out and deal with it. So could you please take care of that and pretend you never saw us? Which the party probably won't listen to, and, whatever.
No,
there might be some twist from that. But I could see something being started.
Yeah. In terms of telepathic hub, I think the biggest use you'd find is as justification for within a Mind Flayer colony and with 5 miles around there, all of the Mind Flayers basically have immediate telepathic communication with each other. You spot one, the entire colony immediately knows.
Right.
That sort of deal. And this is just sort of written justification of how that works.
Right.
And then, or maybe as you walk in and the Elder Brain starts messing with you, they realize that, okay, these guys are strong enough to possibly fight their way in here and kill me. Let me try to deter them. And I speak to the 5 of them telepathically, and we have a telepathic communication between all of them. It's not having to be one at a time.
I know this is totally not how this actually works, but I do like the idea of having the entire party become telepathically connected and not expect it, and then all of their negative thoughts about each other just become apparent. I know it's not detect thoughts. You're not actually getting all of that. You have to intentionally speak with each other, but it's just you start hearing your party member A here talking shit about party member B, and everyone's like, whoa, what's going on here?
Right.
So
that could be cool.
Some animosity between each other.
Right.
All right. So then getting into its actions, it has a tentacle ability. So these really are pretty similar to the Mind Flayer, but it has +7 to hit, reach of 30 feet, much longer, does 48 + 2 bludgeoning damage, and if the target is huge or smaller, it is grappled with a escape DC of 15, and it takes 1d8 + 5 psychic damage at the start of each of its turns until the grapple ends, and the Elder Brain can have 4 targets grappled at a time. So that's pretty good damage, pretty scary.
Yeah, it feels more in line, though, with, in some senses, it's easier than the Mind Flayer because it's not an immediate stun.
Yeah. No, that comes from the Mind Blast.
Right.
But it doesn't even have multi-attack. And I think that's actually really
yeah.
important, is it's not making 4 tentacle attacks. It makes 1, and then over the course of 4 turns, probably 5, because it'll start with its Mind Blast if it doesn't get more of those. You know, you're right. The Mind Flayer almost is a little bit scarier. And what's really scary is the fact that you'll probably have a couple of Mind Flayers in the room fighting with it.
Yes, and Quaggoth Thralls and whatever else.
Right. So then we've got Mind Blast, recharge of 5 or 6. So it basically works the exact same, where it is a 60-foot... Oh, no. I'm sorry. It is actually pretty different.
60 feet of it, yeah.
Yeah, it's not a cone this time. Just creatures of the Elder Brain's choice within 60 feet of it make a DC 18 int saving throw or take 5d10 plus 5 psychic damage and are stunned for a minute. Now that means if you succeed, you take none of that damage and you're not stunned. So that's very much a save or suck.
Yes.
Target can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on itself on a success. But from there's no like permanent resistance or anything like a lot of these abilities have. If they recharge on it, they can try again and you're screwed.
Yep. Though this one, that makes sense for me because it's a Mind Blast. It's sending out psychic waves of energy.
Sure.
And you're not going to like build up an immunity to that. Like Frightful Presence, it's like, yeah, you still yourself and steal yourself. Steal or still yourself?
Stiller. You stiller yourself.
I don't think that's right at all. You steal yourself and you gather your courage and you're no longer frightened by the dragon. That makes a lot of sense.
Kind of, yeah.
Same
sure.
with like managing like things that give off like terrible smells and you have to like roll to not retch if you're within 10 feet. Same sort of deal. You kind of get through it.
You get
finally.
used to it.
Yeah. This one, it's an external force trying to stun you. I mean.
All right. So then its next action is Psychic Link. So the Elder Brain targets one incapacitated creature it can perceive with its creature sense trait, and it establishes a psychic link with the creature. Until the psychic link ends, the Elder Brain can perceive everything the target senses. The target becomes aware that something is linked to its mind once it is no longer incapacitated, and the Elder Brain can terminate the link at any time, no action required. The target can use an action on its turn to attempt to break the psychic link, doing so with a successful DC 18 Charisma saving throw. On a successful save, the target takes 3d6 psychic damage, and the psychic link also ends if the target or Elder Brain are more than 5 miles apart, with no consequences to the target. And it can form this psychic link with up to 10 creatures at a time.
Yeah, in isolation, it's almost nothing. Like, it can't do anything with that. But then it has abilities. I do want to talk about breaking it, though, because out of combat, it's kind of like, all right, so you know this happened. It's like, all right, let me just sit down and really concentrate on breaking this. And because in theory, every 6 seconds, you can just roll. And eventually you will.
Sure.
Because the damage only happens on a success. I think it should be the other way around. Every time you roll and fail, you take damage, and a lot of damage, to try and persuade you to not break this.
Sure.
Because otherwise it's just going to happen in combat, because that's then and when it would actually matter, but the abilities that happen with it aren't really combat abilities.
I agree. Now, one thing that I think is kind of neat is that if your party is fighting Mind Flayers nearby, within 5 miles attached to this thing can do its psychic link on a incapacitated party member from its safe haven. It doesn't have to be a part of it, and these things can happen. Which isn't to discount what you were saying. I think you're spot on. It should still be like damage if you fail. But I do think it should be mentioned that this probably won't be used when you're directly fighting it, but if you're fighting near it, it's almost like a layer action in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really unique at the very least.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I think I'm with you. I don't really like how that works. I feel like they were trying to be cheeky with it. Like, oh, when you succeed, you take damage. Ooh, but really, it just doesn't work that well.
Yeah.
Next,
Yes.
it's got sense thoughts. The Elder Brain targets a creature with which it has a psychic link, as kind of established here. And the Elder Brain gains insight into the target's reasoning, its emotional state, and thoughts that loom large in its mind, including things that it worries about, loves, or hates. The Elder Brain can also make a deception check with advantage to deceive the target's mind into thinking it believes one idea or feels a particular emotion. The target can test this attempt with an insight check. If the Elder Brain succeeds, the mind believes the deception for 1 hour or until evidence of the lie is presented to the target. Kind of a complicated one.
Yeah. It's very open of how you would play it. I guess you could use that to make it so they don't break the psychic link.
Sure.
To make them believe, like, knowing something's connected to them is like, oh, no, I'm just feeling groggy because I was incapacitated and feel out of it.
Sure.
And then they stop, I guess. Like, it feels a little iffy, but I think you could do that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what it's trying to go for is that any fight against this thing, whether be it directly or in its hive mind, is not just a fight of the body, but a fight of the mind. And that it does a good job of getting across, where it could be telling you, for whatever reason, to leave. And that's it. I mean, you're just like, all right, well, I guess everybody, we should get going. And, you know, you strongly believe that you shouldn't go any deeper. And that's,
right,
on a normal person, going to be very, very effective.
Right.
Or, even better, if somebody gets too close, a dwarven society or a Durgar or whatever, you can say, hey, come a little bit closer. Come over to this area. We've got candy. And then your brain gets eaten.
Right. Yeah, kind of corrupting them from afar.
Right. Now, I guess the hard part is that it has to be that psychic link, and that has to be on an incapacitated creature. So to kick this off, they have to be stunned. That's generally how it'll come up. So there's, like, I don't know, a lot
unconscious,
sure,
asleep.
Okay, yeah, sleep works.
I mean, your party goes to sleep too close to a Mind Flayer colony, and you all wake up with a psychic link and sense thoughts happening and these lies about what's happening. Yeah, I mean, it could.
There you go.
That's kind of a specific situation. But again, you're the DM. You can just set it up. It's like, yeah, it's getting to the point where we need rest for the night.
Yeah.
Like, there's a Mind Flayer colony on the other side of that wall.
It's a 5-mile radius. It's not like you're saying, like, within 100 feet. Like, that's pretty wide.
No, I know, yeah.
In the Underdark, that is days. That's the other thing to keep in mind.
Yeah.
This thing doesn't sit out in a field that you can just avoid it. Just everyone travels around the field.
Yeah, that'd be actually...
But in combat, I think this does actually work because you can just keep doing it. Every time they get stunned, anytime even out of combat, like you said, and then you just start planting seeds. You don't need to, like, convince them anything that ridiculous to have people... to get people to start role-playing kind of irrational behavior.
Sure.
Right. One problem I could see a kind of more adversarial DM really abusing this and treating it like a dominate person.
Yeah. Like, oh, attack your party member.
Like, yeah, it's like, oh, you believe it's the best idea in the world to go and kill your party members. And then the DM's like, hey, you failed your role. You got to do it. Like, I don't think that's the intent.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a specific spell. I almost wish that it said, like, you know,
like the suggestion spell.
Yeah, like as similar to suggestion, and then you're like, oh, okay, I know now how to operate within this. But when it's just, you just convince them.
Even that one though, there's a lot of arguments online about what's a reasonable suggestion.
Right. Well,
I think that's the wording, and it needs to be worded in a way to sound reasonable. So
it does specify, like, harm to yourself or your party is generally viewed as unreasonable, I think.
Right.
But still, you're right. There's a lot of ambiguity, which means that you've got the potential for a DM taking it too far.
Right.
Where this is more fun to me as, like, a subtle subterfuge almost.
Yes.
But Will, I'm really curious where you mentioned having it in combat and getting people to role play around that. I mean, what would you even start telling people? Like, the first thing that I can think of is just, you should leave. And that's, like, really basic. I don't know if there's anything more you could think of.
It's mainly just a way to plant these seeds in combat because it takes a turn to get rid of this link. So if it's a more than one turn combat, they are going to get hit by this a lot.
Sure.
So you can just do weird things like the idea is we should go left when they really should not be going left.
Okay.
And that's really, really easy for your players to role play.
Yeah.
Right. Because it doesn't break anything of any character. It's like, we should go left, guys, and just insist on it.
Yeah. There you go.
Right.
Yeah, even with like the barbarian, we'll say, just like, hey, you should just walk away. You should be ranged. You're better at ranged. And they're like, yeah, I'm so much better at ranged. Let me pull out my bow. And it's like, what? I don't even horrible at this.
Where did he get that?
Just ties like some rope to a javelin and tries like pulling it back. So that is it for its normal actions. Then we get to the legendary actions, which it can take 3 of. If you're not familiar with legendary actions, basically it can take one of these options after somebody else's turn, not its own. And it regains the spent legendary actions at the start of its own turn. First one is Tentacle, so it can make a tentacle attack that we mentioned earlier. That's, I guess, why it doesn't have multi-attack is because it's doing it through the legendary actions. Then we have my favorite thing ever as a dungeon master, the Break Concentration legendary action. Oh my god, I love this. So the Elder Brain targets a creature within 120 feet of it, which has a psychic link. The Elder Brain breaks the creature's concentration on a spell it has cast. The creature also takes 1d4 psychic damage per level of the spell.
Yeah.
That is...
As a player, I hate it, but
oh,
I get
yeah.
it.
That's
because
mean.
there's no save or anything. It's not like it forces a concentration save. It's just boom.
Yeah. I mean... Based on our original conversation about this shouldn't be a fight the players can win. I legitimately don't think that players should ever come out of an Elder Brain fight having slain the beast and reaped all of the glory. If you don't like that, this might not be the right creature to throw at your party, or whatever. It's your game. I don't give a crap. But, but like how it is put into the book is like, this thing's going to get out no matter what. It is going to escape.
Right.
Yeah, so that's really neat. Your wizard gets a really good spell off. Nope, sorry, it's done. And also take 1d4 psychic damage per level, the spell.
Right. Yeah, and because it's a legendary action. It's like the wizard or the whatever, the spellcaster casts that spell, and then it immediately ends.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, imagine you get that really, really helpful banishment off. You banish like 3 of the Mind Flayers or whatever the minions in here because you cast at a high level and you're just like, yes, we've got them. They're gone. And it's like, actually, bonk. And also take 5d4 psychic damage for me real quick.
Right.
It's frustrating for a player.
Yes.
It's starting to...
If any creature could do this in the realms, it's a gigantic psychic brain.
Yes.
If anything could really screw with your concentration, giant floating brain.
Yeah. So as much as I'm saying like, oh, I love this as a DM, I don't love it for everything.
Right.
Don't just be like, oh yeah, I'll give everything a break concentration. Maybe forcing a concentration save. That's good. I'd like that as a legendary action. Mm-hmm. But not just breaking it.
Right.
All right. Next is, for legendary actions, is the Psychic Pulse. So the Elder Brain targets a creature within 120 feet of it, with which it has a psychic link. Enemies of the Elder Brain within 10 feet of that creature take 3d6 psychic damage. So that can be, even if it has its psychic link with one of its own allies, it's just like a little AoE blast of psychic damage.
Yep, neat little thing.
And then, lastly, is Sever Psychic Link. The Elder Brain targets a creature within 120 feet of it, with which it has a psychic link, and it ends the link, causing the creature to have disadvantage on all ability checks, attack rolls, and saving throws until the end of the creature's next turn. Pretty strong. A lot of setup to get there.
Yeah, because having that psychic link up
takes a whole action.
It's quite a doing, yeah.
But that's still strong.
Annoying.
Yeah. Okay, here's a good way to use it. You establish the psychic link, then you sever it. Then you have either yourself next turn or this turn do dominate monster. And then you can keep reestablishing it and then breaking it to keep giving them disadvantage on the save.
Yeah. Well, they have to be incapacitated to reestablish.
Yeah, that doesn't fully work then. Okay, but at least gets you the first time, maybe. And that's the Elder Brain.
Yeah,
I think it's got some layer actions as well. It does have layer actions.
Oh, it does, yeah.
So I guess we could talk about those too. This one doesn't.
Cast Wall of Force. This happens on initial count 20 within its layer. So it can cast Wall of Force, which is crazy. That's real high level. Kind of blocks out just basically everything. I can target a friendly creature within 120 feet of it. They have a flash of inspiration and gain advantage on attack roll ability checks or saving throws until the end of the next turn. And then it could target a creature. It can sense within 120 feet of it, and it anchors it. The targets must succeed on a DC 18 Charisma saving throw or be unable to leave its current space. It can repeat it at the end of the next following turns.
So, more things. And you will fight this thing in its lair, without a doubt.
Yes. Yeah, so this is a fight where it needs minions. By itself, it does a lot of really big buff, debuff, and support type stuff. It doesn't do a lot of damage. So by itself, it would not be an interesting fight.
No.
Even though it's like the big boss fight. It needs to sit in its tank in the middle of the room, messing with the party and boosting its allies as its thralls and Mind Flayers do the bulk
And I think
of the
you
work.
could actually lean into this really hard and essentially put the Elder Brain in a impenetrable magic tank. And if the players attack it, nothing happens. It can't use its tentacles anymore, but it can use everything else. And only when you defeat everything in the room, then it plane shifts away. Kind of like we were talking about.
Sure. Or there's some specific thing you have to figure out in order to take down we'll say the protective shell that it has.
Like the off button. There's just like a giant off.
Yeah, big old off button that like 16 Mind Flayers are in front of, and they're like, come on, come and press the off button. I dare you. Right. You're right. Yeah, it's more of like a puzzle encounter than a specific creature in the center of the room.
Right. Or you don't shut it off. It really is that well made, and you wipe out the colony. You kill all of its thralls and Mind Flayers and whatever else, and it is you and this tank with the Elder Brain, and you're staring at each other knowing there's nothing you can do to each other.
What happens if you banish it? Would it just come back to this plane?
I think, yeah.
Okay, I would say so.
Because it doesn't the banish thing is like if it's native to another plane and you concentrate on it for a minute, it stays there. It's like not really native to another plane. It kind of is. It's a weird thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And which again, so I kind of ending the fight like that goes back to the so it would probably plane shift away and reestablish itself elsewhere, and you kind of that sort of hollow victory. Like the Elder Brain fought so hard because it worked for decades establishing itself in this area and establishing in the nearby towns and civilizations and drawing what they need, and now they're going to have to restart, but it's not worth dying over. So
I think this is really cool. Boy, it's a lot of setup to ever have your party face this thing.
Yeah, it needs to be like a whole arc built around it.
Sure.
Leading up to it.
But great for, your tier 3, tier 4 stuff, because a party of level like 17s or something going through a Mind Flayer colony would be super neat. And Volo's has like a great breakdown of what their, not the Elder Brain layer, but like what their colony looks like, and a bunch of different rooms and such. It's really useful if you do want to do that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, but we got 2 more stat blocks to cover. I think I'm going to move on to those.
Please. Let's do it.
All right, the next stat block is the Ulitharid. These are Elder Brains in the making, in a sense. They're not as powerful as the Elder Brain, but it made sense to talk about them after the Elder Brain due to their lore. So, as Will's pointed out way at the beginning of all this, about like 5 hours ago at this point. The Mind Flayers reproduce with like the tadpoles that like change your brain and make you into a Mind Flayer. Every once in a while, very rarely, one of these emerges as an Ulitharid. They are a stronger, faster, smarter, more aggressive, more ambitious Mind Flayer.
With 6 tentacles instead of 4.
Yes. Oh, yes. And extra long, too. How they're perceived when these things are born, have hard quotes term born, depends on the Elder Brain, because how the Elder Brain feels is generally how the whole colony feels. Some Elder Brain feel very threatened by these. Others are happy to have this kind of ambitious, powerful thing and a good pawn to use. Eventually, though, the Ulitharid will grow tired of working with the Elder Brain, and they will generally leave, taking half the colony with them, and will form a new colony elsewhere, being transformed into their own Elder Brain. It's this horrible ritual where they all have this staff where it rips their brain out and then dissolves their body into this gross, nasty ichor, and then they do a ritual and it turns into an Elder Brain. Gross stuff.
Right. Just like puberty.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Squid puberty.
So the Ulitharid is challenge rating 9, armor class 15, hit points 127. Strength of 15, highest is intelligence and charisma of 21, con of 15, 19 wisdom, dex of 12. I was thinking, like, I'm not going to read them all, but there we are. Saving throws of int, wisdom, and charisma, skills of arcana, insight, perception, and stealth, dark vision, stealth, yes. So weird, all these have stealth. Is it just because they're usually in the Underdark and their skin is a similar color of the stone? Is that it? Is that all there is to it?
And maybe like sneaking up on people. Like it just doesn't mention
see these things sneaking.
I say it just doesn't mention it in the lore even once that they're sneaky.
Right. They're big, gangly, have tentacles, they drip slime. I don't know.
Okay, well dripping slime doesn't mean you're not stealthy.
I mean, kind of.
I'd say that correlates pretty heavily with stealth.
You've obviously never dripped slime before then.
I have
and also tried to sneak. You haven't lived.
Nope. Sheltered life. All right. Dark vision out to 120 feet. It has telepathy out to 2 miles, along with other languages. This has basically the same creature sense as the Elder Brain, except for it's out to 2 miles instead of 5. No different there, best I could tell. So it's just aware of any creature with intelligence 4 or higher within 2 miles of it, as long as it's not protected by various spells. It has magical resistance, so advantage on saving throws and other magical effects. And it does act as a psionic hub, exact same again as the Elder Brain. I think it's just less creatures.
No, it's a Wi-Fi repeater.
Right.
So it can go 5 miles away and extend the range of the Elder Brain.
Right. Yeah. Oh, if an Elder Brain established a psychic link with the Ulitharid, the Elder Brain could form a psychic link with any other creature the Ulitharid can detect using its creature sense. Okay, and as if it's outside of the telepathy range of both the Ulitharid and the Elder Brain. Yeah. Nothing crazy interesting there. It has innate spellcasting, not the same as other Mind Flayers. It has more, so it's a DC 17 save for its spells. At will, detect thoughts and levitate, that's the same. Once a day each, it could cast Confusion, Dominate Monster, Eye Bite, Feeble Mind, Mass Suggestion, Plane Shift Self Only, Project Image, Scrying, and Telekinesis. So let's talk about those. There's some really scary spells in there.
Sure.
And Dominate Monsters always...
One thing, sorry, just before we even discuss these specific spells that should have been mentioned on any of these, is that since it is psionic casting and innate and no component specified, this cannot be counterspelled.
True, yes.
Very important.
I think that's, all innate spell casting.
Yes.
Very good point. Dominate Monster we've talked about in depth. Scary stuff. This has a DC 17, so that's rough. Mass Suggestion, I mean, not so much a combat thing, but you could cast Suggestion on the entire party. Get them kind of bent to your will. Confusion is a rough spell. Feeble Mind is character ending. I mean, unless you have, Though I guess Greater Restoration will bring it back, won't it? Yeah. Okay, at this point, you probably have access to Greater Restoration when you're fighting one of these.
Yeah.
So it's more encounter ending, but... And then Eye Bite is that weird one where it used to be amazing and then... Oh, no, never mind. I was thinking of contagion.
Yeah.
Eye bite's kind of an odd spell. Yeah,
Yeah,
make
you
things
think
fall
you're
asleep,
biting
panic.
the eyes, but you're
Right.
biting with your eyes.
Right. That's what
Right.
makes it weird.
Yeah. All right. In terms of actions, it has tentacles like everything else, reach of 10 feet, +9 to hit, 40 10 +5 psychic damage. If it's large or smaller, it's grappled, DC 14. It basically the same as the Mind Flayer stuff. If it must succeed on DC 17 in saving throw or be stunned. It also has Extract Brain, +9 to hit, reach 5 feet. It has to be incapacitated and grappled, 10d10 piercing damage, and if it reduces it, devours its brain. Same as the Mind Flayer. And it also has Mind Blast, which is basically the same, I think, just a higher DC. DC 17 intelligence saving throw, 40 12 +5 psychic damage, stun for 1 minute.
Yeah. So it really is just like a souped up Mind Flayer with a touch of the Elder Brain stuff. And all of these spells to give you some more, I guess, abilities in your pocket. I think that the main time I would want to throw this at a party is when it is having that exodus from the original Elder Brain, and it's trying to like find a new location to set up, because that would be a very big event for whatever civilization is there to start noticing that, hey, we're starting to have people disappear, and when we find them, they don't have brains. Wonder what's going on.
Whatever could it be?
Right. And since this thing is potentially not yet an Elder Brain and is just getting started, it would actually be a great way for your party to stop something. Unlike the Elder Brain, where it's just going to disappear, this you have the ability for the party to find it, uncover the plot, and potentially put a stop to it before it becomes an Elder Brain.
Right. Though it could also plane shift.
It can
So,
also plane shift,
might-
you're right. Yeah. So
Might do that anyways. Another way to use them, if you just want to strip out all of that lore, is kind of just like souped up Mind Flayers. Like the Mind Flayer elites, the Mind Flayers and the Mind Flayer corporals who control them or whatever. I don't actually know military rank, so maybe that's not. Maybe I shouldn't even try that. The elite Mind Flayers.
general's
they're
always a
just
safe
stronger.
one. You just say general,
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah, that's top. That's high up.
Yeah. Just for variation, just so they vary encounter design, give a choice of which ones you attack first, make them noticeably bigger and just different, whatever, things like that. Or in keeping the lore just as a high level kind of mini boss before the Elder Brain, or to fight with the Elder Brain. You're going to fight the Elder Brain and the Ulitharid, plus then all their thralls, that sort of stuff.
Now, I don't think this is very fitting in the lore, but I could potentially see the Ulitharid trying to help the party to take out the Elder Brain. That would be ignoring some lore, because I think they really do work together, even if they're like kind of bitter allies about it. But maybe in the way that the Ulitharid's like, hey, this Elder Brain's got a pretty sweet spot right here. So if I get this party to come in and get the Elder Brain to plane shift out of here, I can take its spot and then force it to restart somewhere else.
Right.
That actually does work within the lore. So I'm going to keep that.
My
one.
only issue, my biggest issue is not exactly that it doesn't make sense in the lore. It's like, the party is not doing a good thing.
No, you're right. It would be them getting tricked. Maybe they think they're going to wipe it out, and the party's like, oh, we'll get the upper hand here. We got this. Once we wipe out the Elder Brain, it'll be easy peasy killing this thing. And then it's not.
It's not. Yeah, it's stronger than you think. It's really weakened from that fight.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'd be weird. I don't know if there's a great way to really work that one out, but it's an idea.
Yeah, or it's just you're not a good party and this thing pays you.
Sure.
It offers you something.
Right. There's the new Warlock subclass that is very tentacle themed. I could see having one of these things or an Elder Brain as a patron. That's like twisting it a lot, to be honest. But that could be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Just because tentacles. I don't think there's really much other crossover. But sometimes that's all you need, you know?
Right.
Tentacles really, they bind us all together.
Yeah, in terms of using this in a fight, it's basically the same strategy as a Mind Flayer.
But it's got spells.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah,
So I put him in the back with Eyebite on.
yeah.
Cast a Feeble Mind if you want to be really mean. Or that's also kind of a good spell to just quietly remove from the list.
No, it's not, Kevin. Just... Oh, you have to kid gloves your players. It's like, no, the wizard's got one ended. It's hilarious.
I mean, it can be, you can do a greater restoration, right? Does that not bring it back?
Greater Restoration,
does.
Healer Wish, which is not asking a lot.
No, not at high levels.
That's true. Yeah, at higher levels, no. It's basically you target a creature within 150 feet. It's attempting to shatter its intellect without any save. That takes 46 psychic damage, and that makes an intelligence saving throw. If it fails that save, its intelligence and charisma becomes 1. The creature can't cast spells, activate magic items, understand language, or commute in any intelligible way. It can still, however, identify its friends, follow them, and even protect them.
Right.
So it's kind of like if you do it on the Barbarian, it's like, yeah, we'll need to fix this, but it's like they're still going to be fine in a fight.
Yeah.
Same with a fight or any marshals. They'll be fine for the rest of that fight. And then afterwards, you could greater restore them. But this thing is really smart. As an intelligence of 21, it's going to target the spellcasters with it.
Right. But the spellcasters have the highest chance of succeeding.
Well, a wizard, sure.
Sure,
It's an
you're right,
intelligence saving throw. Yeah.
You're right.
So target the cleric who has the greater restoration.
Oof.
Ooh. Yeah.
Got
It does end after 30 days. Oh, sorry. At the end of 30 days, you could repeat your saving throw against the spell. And then if you... Yeah, so
Hey,
that would be a real bitch to roleplay.
Need some downtime?
yeah.
Yeah, that's what you're doing. You're not role-playing that. Well, I guess you're role-playing the downtime, but you're not going to be like, let's keep adventuring, guys. Who cares that our cleric can't even speak anymore and we have to drag him around like Casca? That's a Berserk reference. That's for Will.
I got you. But it's funny because it's got like a 1 in 20 chance of succeeding for like half of characters ever created for D&D.
Right.
And multiply that by like a literal month.
Right.
Don't do that to your players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So I know we've been promising the Alhoun, but you're not getting the Alhoun, guys. I'm sorry.
We lied. We deceived you.
It's a very long episode. And the Alhoun's kind of its own standalone thing. They're outcasts. They're not part of Mind Flayer society. You would not fight these along with other Mind Flayers. So we're justifying it that way. It's its own monster. We'll cover it at a later date.
Right.
It is really cool, though, so look out for that.
Or we won't cover it. I don't know. It depends.
Yeah.
We probably will.
My cat finally won. I just realized I let him up here, and now I'm petting him. And this is why he keeps coming back.
Yeah.
Because eventually he wins, and I start petting him. And so that means it's time to end the episode because I gave in to my cat.
Well, before we end the episode, make sure that you look at me. All right. First off, like and subscribe. Ring that bell. Second of all, check out our dice affiliates at Metallic Dice Games and use the code MM10 to get 10% off your order. Okay, this is super important, so don't mess it up. In that order, like the video, subscribe, ring the bell, leave a comment too. I mean, seriously, just like, hey, this was great. You guys did great. Just say that. I every time I get negative feedback, I harp on it for like hours, okay? So just give me like one bit of serotonin. And then go to metallicdicegames.com and use the code MM10 for 10% off your dice order. Did I get him?
Perfect.
I think that worked.
I think that
You
works.
should buy the dice. You want to buy the dice. You really like those dice?
Use some Mind Flayer tricks on him.
Right.
Buy the dice. Thanks for listening.
Yes. Thanks for watching.
Kevin gets
listening.
continuously surrounded by animals.
I know. It's been too long. They're giving up. I can only keep them at bay for so long.
All right,
Dogs barking at me. My cat's all over me.
we're done.
It's time to know. Yes. Thanks for watching.
Thanks so much.
/ listening if you're on the podcast. These endings get a mess right now.